been working with Susan Siegel on practically a daily basis, and she's been extraordinary every step of the way. Second off, the city attorney position is very difficult and complex because they're forced to serve as both a judge in some cases in delivering us legal counsel and advice and opinions, as well as an advocate for the city. And at times, those two positions could potentially be at conflict of an interest. And then third, if our litmus test that we're bringing forward for any city attorney is whether we agree with every single legal decision that they've made, we will be out of city attorneys very quickly. Inevitably, you will disagree with anything. There's no single attorney out there that will agree with every single judicial opinion that's put forward. And then finally, and this is just sort of a thought for the future, is related to the First Amendment. Obviously, the city attorney and our city as a whole has a very serious interest in protecting First Amendment and freedom of speech. Simultaneously, we have to understand that we can only regulate based on time, place, and manner, and we cannot regulate based on content. So while we may agree with one form of content that comes forward, we have to foresee the inevitability that there will be there will be other content in the future that we do not agree with, and we have to treat it in a similar fashion. So it's a concept that I feel that we'll inevitably come across, and so far I feel that our Susan Siegel has definitely handled it, and I agree with Councilmember Goodman. She will likely go down in history.
I think the mayor wanted to make a comment. Did you want to comment, Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Vice President, and thank you for letting me speak in committee, and I appreciate the supportive words that people have had for Ms. Siegel, and I appreciate everybody who came down to testify. I will just give a few big picture, I will just point out a few big picture things. One, in the employee engagement survey, Save the Mayor's office, the city attorney's office has the highest employee engagement and the highest level of employee satisfaction. I will note that, so that speaks to Susan Siegel as a manager. That we are one of the best law firms in town. If we were to go toe-to-toe with other law firms in terms of cost and certainly in terms of results, we are one of the best law firms here in town. And Susan Siegel is an incredibly forward-thinking leader, that she envisions herself as part of certainly great lawyer, great lawyering, and thinking about how the city attorney's office can help make things go well for the people of Minneapolis. She was one of the leaders of our domestic violence project that has led to a conviction rate of over 70%, up from just under 50%. A number of diversion projects that I won't go into here to help divert young people away from the criminal justice system unnecessarily, which helps everybody and helps the entire system overall. And recently, the department won an award from the Link for the work on sex trafficking. The city does great work on sex trafficking and prevention and trying to manage and handle and prevent sex trafficking, and we just won an award for that through the city attorney's office. All of those, I think, are big picture testament to the great work that Susan Siegel has done, in addition to the 8 years that I have been working with her as city attorney here at the city, and I appreciate the support and ask for your vote for Susan Siegel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'm just going to say a couple brief comments. I always comment on Susan's reappointment because I voted on this a couple times now, but I just wanted to say my appreciation to Susan Siegel for being willing to serve as our city attorney. I just feel like we are so lucky to have you at the city of Minneapolis. She's done a great job internally, and the mayor talked about the employee survey and some other measures, but just really has done a great job making this city of Minneapolis a very attractive place to recruit young lawyers who are looking for very exciting work to do. And you can do very exciting work in the city of Minneapolis. Sometimes you don't feel like that, but this is a place where you get to do constitutional cases. You get to try new issues that have not been tried before. And that's also where I think Susan Siegel's ability as a lawyer to bring her sharp skills and work with a really amazing team of lawyers has served us very well. Her main job is to defend the city. I think back in time to when she first came to the city and was working with us on the city had decided to change its voting system to ranked choice voting. And it was really due to her leadership and, again, her team in the city attorney's office that we went all the way up to the Supreme Court with a very strong opinion supporting the right of the city to decide to use ranked choice voting. And so I just use that as one example of one of the things where her leadership has left the city in a very good place. She's led on sex trafficking, she's led on domestic violence, and she also, in my opinion, is one of the most reform-minded city attorneys around. She constantly is seeking ways that she can change the way the department works, and that's a really difficult thing because you're also trying to balance, as Councilmember Goodman said, the needs of the department to continue to do the work at hand, but also looking for how can we do that work well and differently because the times are asking for that. So strongly support her. I've not seen other speakers. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that reappointment is approved. Last is our city coordinator. And this is a public hearing regarding the reappointment of the of Spencer Cronk to the appointed position of city coordinator for a 2-year term beginning January 4th, 2016. And I will open the public hearing. I will note that I do not have speakers signed up for this public hearing. And so I just wanted to ask if anybody wanted to speak. And with that, I will close the public hearing, and I will go ahead and move this reappointment. And I know that the mayor had asked to speak on this reappointment, so I'll turn things over to her.
Thank you very much, and thank you again, Madam Vice President, for letting me speak in your committee. Spencer Cronk has been on the job about 1.5 years, and I early on, I already lost count of the number of people who walk up to me or send me emails or texts just randomly praising Spencer Cronk for the work that he's doing. That includes employees in the city. It includes other department heads. It includes partners and stakeholders out in the community with whom he works and helps, make projects go well, and just folks who have run across him and are pleased with the work and the relationship they have with him. I would echo that. Has been my experience with him as well in his time as city coordinator, as a manager, helping get the departments aligned, making some new decisions about how to organize the work and how to organize relationships and break down barriers among departments even further so that the work can happen more efficiently. And he's been a credible leader in a very challenging position. Asking anyone to be a city coordinator in the city of Minneapolis in our system is a lot to ask of anyone. And he has handled the challenges of that and the learning curve of that with grace and aplomb, even in the moments when others of us would not have. The work he's been able to do inside the coordinator's office to bring the equity work, bring the equity team together, to run the I team, the sustainability work that's happening, and the management work that's happening out of his shop, to bring it up and envision it for the future, has been a very, very important part of his leadership, and I know it's part of his passion and his charge moving forward. So I, without reservation, recommend Spencer Cronk, and on behalf of all of those people who randomly walk up to me and say how great he is and how great a job they think he's doing, who aren't here to testify, please consider me submitting their testimony in the public hearing today, and I ask for your support and your vote for Spencer for city coordinator.
Thank you. And I will just note, I think this is due to Mr. Cronk's generosity in knowing that there may be other public hearings that we're going to have several speakers that he did not ask people to come and testify on his behalf, which often happens. So I just want to say I acknowledge that that's a little bit of what happened today. So thank you, Mr. Cronk. Council President Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to take the opportunity, obviously, to support Mr. Cronk, but I also want to say thank you to the great team that we have of senior leadership in our city. I didn't want to go into details with the other presentations just for that very same reason, but we have a strong administrative team in this city. People work together well. We operate an efficient, productive government, and it's due to your leadership. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. And I'm going to echo those comments. I didn't speak on everyone's public hearing, and it was really just more an issue of ensuring that the folks who were here to speak at the public hearings got their first chance. But I think we do have a strong team, and I just want to say thank you all very much for your service. It is really appreciated. So thank you. With that, I'm not seeing, I'm sorry, Councilmember Gordon would like to speak.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to note that I've enjoyed the opportunity to work with the city coordinator. I appreciate the good work that you've done. Noted that I think you entered the city somewhat carefully and cautiously, figuring out the lay of the land, assembling a team, and being careful about the steps that you take. And I think now you can hear that you've got great trust and confidence with the council here. And I would encourage you not to be too timid, to be willing to stick your neck out a few times and see if you can't push us a little faster forward a little. And I'll get, if you get in a little trouble for that, I'll got your back.
Okay. You can take that or not. Just so, all right. With that, we have a motion before us. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in approval, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that reappointment is approved. So thank you all very much. Thank you. We have one consent item to deal with. This is regarding the prevailing wage requirements for public improvement contracts ordinance. And this authored by Council President Johnson, and this is referring this to staff, and I think we'll set the public hearing shortly. So all in approval of that action, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Oh. And we have postponed the discussion items. So next are reports of committees. So first is Community Development and Regulatory Services with Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I'm just pulling up the quick report. There are 13 items on our agenda. Give me 1 second. Item number 1 is perhaps the most notable item on our agenda. This is the reappointment of Craig Taylor. Item 2 are the liquor business and gambling license applications. 3 are license conditions for more massage and bodywork establishments. 4 is for a license operating condition for Lawless Distilling. 5 is a rental license operating condition. Item 6 are the contracts with the various providers for our Great Streets Facade Improvement Program. There's a little over $400,000 going out in contracts on that. Item number 7 is the Green Zone Policy, and I'll be moving the CBRS report. Item 8 is the ordinance with regard to car sharing that's up in the Transportation and Public Works Committee. And item number 9 are modifications to our semi-tax increment financing plan to allocate future funding to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. With that, I will be moving all items forward on Friday.
Seeing questions for Councilmember Goodman. Next, we have Health, Environment, and Community Engagement. With that, Chair, Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. The Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee will be bringing forward 5 items for consideration at the council meeting. 3 of them are ordinance amendments. The first one is the Energy Data Ordinance, and this is a minor change to our energy disclosure, clarifying the standards of acceptable energy data and stating the schedule of public disclosure. The second item is a passage of an ordinance amending Title 13 relating to laundries and dry cleaning establishments that would prohibit the use of certain solvents, including the PERC that is often used in the older dry cleaners. The third item on the agenda is approving the reappointment of Gretchen Musicant as the Commissioner of Health and Director of the Health Department. The fourth item is some contract amendments authorizing the extension of current 3-year contracts for provision of financial management and filing support for neighborhood organizations coming through our Neighborhood Community Relations Department. And the fifth item is an ordinance amendment, a rather extensive rewrite of our Animal Care and Control Regulation Ordinance to pass that ordinance. And also, that was sent to Ways and Means because there's a fee schedule that also corresponds to that title. I'm happy to take questions on all items.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had some questions for the authors with regard to the portion of the animal control ordinance that had to do with raising the fees for adoption by 300%. And I'm wondering how much energy and effort went into the council discussion with regard to fees. As someone who served on the Humane Society Board, I can tell you that there's a direct correlation between the amount it costs to adopt an animal and the amount of animal adoption we're actually going to have. And I don't know if anyone's really been following this at all, but we're talking about 178% increase in the fee to adopt animals. So we are actually pricing ourselves higher than the Humane Society in some cases. We would be increasing the amount of dog adoptions from $90 to $250. I realize that there's a want to recoup the costs that we incur, but if we're trying, and we're not even recouping all of the costs that we incur, but in the end, we're going to be potentially left with a lot of animals if the fee gets to a level where people are not willing to adopt. I'll also note that comparable cities have much lower fees. St. Paul has a $47 fee for residents to adopt. They do have a higher fee for non-residents to adopt, and in Bloomington, they only charge $30. I know from my work with the Humane Society that multiple other municipalities don't have animal control functions. They work through Humane Societies and other. So I am just kind of wanting to note that I'm probably not going to vote for the entire ordinance over this fee issue. The idea of moving towards a more humane system also means getting these animals out. And at the Humane Society, cats are adopted for $40 to $50, and they can't get rid of them. Sometimes they do a 2-for-1. So I just think we're putting ourselves in a position where we're going to have the opposite result, which is less animals will be adopted, but also this is a property tax supported function, meaning Minneapolis residents are paying for this. And so they're already paying to get these animals adopted. So to charge Minneapolis residents $250 to do us a favor and adopt a dog seems like a very high price to pay. So I just wanted to bring that issue up. I have the explanation from NOAA. I know what it costs, but I just know from my work in animal issues that we're not going to be adopting a ton of dogs if our fee is higher than the Humane Societies.
So, Madam Vice President, if I could just mention that our committee didn't discuss the fee schedule very much at all because we referred that on to the Ways and Means Committee. We spent a lot of time and we held over the other ordinance. And for those of you who have issues with the fees but might like the ordinance language, those items will probably be moved separately. So you'll have an opportunity to vote for one and not the other if you wanted to. And I'm going to let the author, Councilmember Johnson, if that's all right, Madam Vice President, talk more about the fee schedule because he authored that.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you,
Councilmember
Madam
Johnson.
Chair, and I understand the concerns with the fees. I asked staff about that as well. It's very important to note to all council members, these fees were raised in June 2014, and they have led to an increase in adoptions. If you go out on the MAC website, you can see listed for dogs, $250 adoption fee. And so that is my understanding from staff. These were already raised. Adoptions have increased at MAC, and the actual cost of providing the services for that animal before it goes out the door averages about $380. So they are trying to get closer to cost recuperation. And for a lot of rescues, at least, I know it's fairly in line, depending on which rescue you go. So.
Okay. Council President Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been in what you call contact, I guess, with email contact with not one of my constituents, actually Councilmember Yang's constituent, she used to be mine, who runs Chicken Run Rescue, and she still has some concerns about some of the language with regard to fowl, and so I've been working with staff to try and draft me some what I consider. I will tell you, I'm not going to make her completely happy, but there are some minor changes that I'll bring forward tomorrow after consultation with with staff and have them drafted. And I want to thank Councilmember Gordon, who went to do a site visit at Chicken Run Rescue, and they were very, very grateful. These people have started this organization themselves and funded it themselves and have rescued, I believe, if my numbers remind me, some 700 and some chickens over the last 10 years in North Minneapolis. And I just really want to, be responsive to her concerns.
Councilmember Goodman, did you have a second? Councilmember Goodman.
I haven't had the opportunity to adopt a dog from MAC. I have 2 already. How do you think I heard about the fee thing being a problem? From constituents and the public who are complaining about it. So while there might be people willing to pay it now, overall it is not a long-term strategy for getting animals adopted, and I think it's really regressive to make Minneapolis taxpayers pay that high fee when they're already using their property tax money to pay for the service, and then to turn around and do us a favor and adopt an animal and then have to pay the high fee, I think is terrible.
Councilmember Gordon.
So speaking for myself, not necessarily at all for the committee now, I would be receptive to even looking at those fees again. I got some contacts about the $250 for dog adoptions too, and it seemed like maybe there'd be some room there to move. So I don't, just to give you Councilmember Goodman a suggestion that rather than deciding you're going to vote against everything, people have heard you today, and there might be some openness to see, okay, maybe there's some other common ground. So don't rule out an amendment. I also wanted to acknowledge that I also I met with the owners of Chicken Run Rescue. It's very interesting, and it was insightful. We actually held this matter over in committee so we could address some of the concerns that got raised. I think we made some significant amendments. I did actually get to see a couple of the small suggestions for striking out a few phrases that they're bringing forward. And when I read that, I thought that one, probably not necessary because the ordinance probably captures all the meaning that she needs, but probably would make no difference if it lost those phrases because the ordinance would still contain all the meaning that it already has, and it might offer some reassurance and some clarity that very specifically there's a concern that we're not acknowledging people can keep fowl as pets and that kind of thing, and I think we already amended the ordinance, but I'm just to say I think they're pretty benign amendments. I'd be supportive of doing them if you wanted to bring them forward. I think I told them because we had it in committee so long, the committee had done their work, and I was satisfied with that. I didn't want to have to initiate amendments, but I'm open to it, and I suspect other council members would be too.
All right. I think that is all the discussion on this item. So then we will turn to public safety, civil rights, and emergency management. With that, Chair Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I just wanted to apologize. We dumped most of our business on the Committee of the Whole, and so I'm sorry. Thank you.
You owe me something. I don't know. Yeah. Councilmember Warsami, we are ready for the taxes report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have Taxes Committee has 2 items. One was 2016 Board of Appeal and Equalization has a resolution establishing the City of Minneapolis 2016 Board of Appeal and Equalization pursuant to city charter. And the second item was the 2016 Board of Appeal and Equalization appointments, approving the following appointments to the city's 2016 Board of Appeal and Equalization. Number 1, Ted Marinak, an appraiser; Sandy Losha, a realtor; Pat Warner, a realtor. Number 4 is Earl Netwall, a freeholder; and Jeff Lawson, a freeholder. Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you, Councilmember Warsami. Next, we have Transportation and Public Works with Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee will be forwarding 11 items. Item 1 is the passage of a resolution approving the preliminary design plans for the Blue Line LRT. Item 2 is Blaisdell. It's a variance request for the Blaisdell Avenue South reconfiguration project. Item 3 was the car sharing policy, program policy. Items 4, 5, and 6 are all road projects as listed. And item 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 are all bids and contracts as described. I'll stand for questions, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Ways and Means with Councilmember Clinton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll have 20 items for your consideration on Friday. The first is the reappointment of Patrick Todd serving as our city assessor. Then there are a series of 4 legal settlements that we'll be considering, several contract amendments for various services within the city attorney's office and the city clerk's office, bid for convention center exhibit hall fronts project, several lease agreements, and a RFP for a Target Center renovation project. We have the several contract amendments for various services provided in the Neighborhood Community Relations Department, a contract amendment implementing enhanced interface services with First Watch Solutions. There are 3 appointed positions: the Deputy City Coordinator, the Deputy Director of Neighborhood Community Relations, and the Manager of the Convention Center, related to salary schedules, a collective bargaining agreement with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 8292, and the final item is accepting a low responsive bid from Campbell Civey for Heathcraft water coils for the Minneapolis Convention Center for air conditioning service requirements. So those will be the 20 items that we'll be bringing forward on Friday. Happy to answer any questions council members may have.
All right, thank you. And finally, we have zoning and planning with its Vice Chair, Councilmember Andrew Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're bringing forward on Friday 7 items. The first is an interim use permit extending a cell phone tower. We have 4 separate rezoning items, an environmental assessment worksheet, and a comprehensive plan amendment. And I'll stand for any questions.
All right, I'm not seeing any questions. So with that, I believe, I'm just double checking, we have concluded with the committee's business. Thank you all very much for staying for an extra long meeting, and we are adjourned.
Yeah.
Of the changes,
Yeah.
every change is set.